Okay, and welcome to Crypto Disrupted. We're here today with Kelley Weaver from Melrose PR, a PR firm specializing in cryptocurrency and ICOs out of Los Angeles, California. So, Kelley, welcome to the show. And, I guess we'll start off. Give us a little bit of context and background about who you are and where you're coming from.
Sure. Thanks, Trent and Greg, for the invite to be on here. It's really fun to chat with you. I launched this PR company, Melrose PR, a little over 6 years ago, originally as a consumer-facing lifestyle PR firm. So we represented things like consumer products, restaurants, et cetera. So much more in the lifestyle realm. And we worked with Silicon Beach Fest. We're based here in Los Angeles, outside of Culver City. At the time, we were in Santa Monica. And we worked with Silicon Beach Fest to promote what they were doing from the first, their inaugural conference throughout. But I really was kind of afraid of tech because I thought, I don't have a technical background. I considered myself to be like more on the consumer facing side. And so shied away from doing that. And then a couple of years ago when, because of companies like Snapchat, what has happened in our backyard is sort of like something that you can't ignore in terms of the advent of all of these startups and, more and more people moving here to work in tech, which is incredibly exciting. And an advisor said, I'm working with a couple of companies. I really think that you should take a look at these. And so I thought, why not? Like, happy to have conversations. Maybe we can do something relating to events or something. And one of those companies was Gem, which is a Venice Beach-based enterprise blockchain solutions company. And it's led by Micah Winkelspecht. He's been in the industry for a very long time, 2012, I think, or even earlier. And anyway, they are sort of this magnetic team of great individuals that you just want to be around. And so we fell in love with them. My team loved working with them. We loved what we were promoting. We sort of got introduced to this technology and the capabilities and fell down the rabbit hole completely. Started following them to conferences, organizing press for them. And as we went to these different conferences and events around the country, we were like meeting these teams of developers who were doing these world-changing things, but didn't necessarily know how to communicate that clearly to the outside, like to a more mainstream audience, let's put it that way. And so we really saw an opportunity. And also at the time, this is in 2016, there were, not that many reporters covering the space, covering blockchain. And remember, those days, Bitcoin was a dirty word. And so we really came in the door through the enterprise blockchain side, and then discovered the, crypto, obviously, through that process. And so 2016, we rebranded ourselves as like blockchain PR company and started to put the pieces together for that. We gathered a couple, mostly through word of mouth, a couple more clients in this space. One was MadHive, which is an ad tech solutions provider, utilizing blockchain. And then 2017 happened, and in early 2017, we started to be more and more people were potential business pieces of business were coming our way, and the crypto side of things started to really heat up. I'm sure that you guys remember, and I just keep saying we were like in the right place at the right time and willing to sort of take chances and experiment with this. So we hadn't done anything in like crypto. The first crypto project that we worked on was the Particle project, which was a rebrand of the Shadow Cash project. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it's been around for a long time. And they're creating like a decentralized marketplace kind of similar to Etsy. And so that was the first project we worked on. And then in May, that's when we started being hit up by all of these ICO teams. And like, I, at that one point, was just like, this is going to be an experiment. We'll see how this goes. We'll, see if we can continue to add value, like, I don't know how this is going to go. These are shorter engagements that we're used to, because remember, Gem, we worked with for, a couple of years or a year and a half at least. And MadHive, like the engagements used to be longer and these were much shorter projects. So anyway, started as an experiment, cut to, what are we in almost March of 2018. And we've worked with 24 ICO projects. We at some capacity or another, we, haven't seen them all through. We've broken up with certain teams. at various different junctures for various different reasons. And we definitely have a couple of non-ICO related blockchain clients as well, and we would like to continue to have more of those. But
so without naming names, can you kind of like go into like why some projects are fit for you and why you had to kind of cut some clients loose?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so it's been an interesting learning curve, right? Because in the very beginning, remember, as a service provider, you're usually pitching the business to the clients and going after the clients that you want to work with. When you have this kind of influx of market interest and everybody wants to do an ICO for like whatever reason, all of a sudden as of May 2017, all of the service providers who had anything to do with blockchain or any kind of experience in this industry, which was very few, were just being like inundated, right? And so all of a sudden we're getting like hit up by every different potential team, like people who are calling us saying like, I have this existing business. How can I implement blockchain so that I can launch an ICO? Like, how do I, just basically from the very beginning, people who are not ready or maybe not equipped. But we, at that point, didn't have like a screening process, like a due diligence framework to even vet clients. And it became increasingly clear very quickly over the summer that we had to be really careful about what clients we chose to work with. And that became, increasingly clear again as the fall went on. And so at this point, we are in a very blessed position to be able to be incredibly selective with our clients because we have way more business than we could ever handle from a bandwidth perspective. So it's a little bit of like a jigsaw puzzle in terms of like who's ready to start and who's, wrapping up and how much bandwidth we have. We are definitely growing our team, but we grow our team one person at a time, because the quality has to remain. It's like, it is still a small industry and reputation is really important. So in terms of what went wrong on some of those, like sometimes when you go into something, things seem great. And then you kind of discover that maybe they're not doing the fundraise for the right reasons. And you think, like if that's the case, then are they going to be faithful in their promises to their investors? And do we want to be responsible ethically for promoting this, right? So there were a couple where it just became clear, like not from a financial perspective, because from a financial perspective, it made no sense to walk away. But from an ethical perspective, it was just like, you know what, we can replace the business. Let's cut our losses here. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's been some times where like the expectations are mismanaged with the client. It's just not been a fit and they haven't been happy with us. We haven't been happy with them. And it's just like, this isn't going to work. But for the most part, we have really like clients who really see value. Like one of the reasons why I think that we've been able to remain relevant is because we're always willing to like scrap what we're doing and start from scratch and try something new. Because for example, the earned media, like the placements in like, Forbes and New York Times, like the placements that we were able to get in May of last year for like ICO projects versus today, we could get 10 times as much then as now, because back then it was like news to be launching a token sale, right? And the reporters were just as like kind of new to this as we were in terms of like, oh yeah, like you're doing this, like we'll represent you. And then you learn quickly that there's a lot of noise, some of it's a little bit disgusting, frankly, with like the intentions and the like greed. And, I think at this point, reporters don't really want much to do with it unless they see real promise. And so, things that we require of our clients are like a minimum viable product or, prototype, some semblance of a working product. Partnership announcements are important, but the more material that we have along those lines, like strong story angles, a strong team who's been able to deliver on past projects, the more successful we're going to be able to be. Obviously, it's our job to come up with these storylines, but, part of our due diligence process is like, is there enough here for us to be able to meet their expectations, right?
Yeah, Kelley, you bring up you're really highlighting that you're a node of information. And this is what this done for us was like, oh man, you know how many white papers she's read? Do you know how many times she's read a white paper, how to think about it critically, discuss it with her team, and then start planning iconology and strategy around communicating that message and that outcome? Like that's where, you're taking that technical piece and then mushing it into the human condition and then outputting like, hey, we have to demonstrate why people are going to use this product and how it's going to be used. And just like any other marketer too, I guess, a news story that, some dog food brand had some poison in it, right? So that marketing firm has to also do that vetting process to make sure they're not promoting something bad. And in the same way, you don't want to promote some kind of scam or associate your name with that. So there is some kind of like, I like the public shaming kind of element that comes in on business and is letting businesses know, hey, we're not going to accept deception, lies, which creates a self-policing aspect to what you're doing, right? You're being scrutinous and saying, hey, if you're going to work with us, we have a name to protect. I got approached by a chain in China where they were saying that we only take vetted companies. That way people knowing that if you're on our blockchain, that experts have read your paper, have verified your team, and then that it's good. And I was like, oh, that's a unique approach to combating that unethical standard there. So,
and on the flip side, the reporters that we work with, right, we have to maintain our reputations with them. And if we're pitching them crap ICOs, they're not going to want to open our emails, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or get on the phone with us or take a lunch meeting because it's like, no, I'm not interested. I'm not, So in a way, we're trying to provide a pre-screening process for them as well. It's all about relationships, But in addition to the earned media, we've had to add services and value adds because we have to deliver value, right, to these clients. So that means content creation. We have, and I also, when you brought up like the amount of white papers I've read, I don't want to discredit. I have a lot of help. I have an amazing, amazing team. So we have a couple of people who do take like the first stab. I usually get it once it's like already gone through 2 passes. So I, and they're like, no, this is, really exciting. And here's the high level notes. And then I'll obviously get into it when we onboard new clients. But yeah, it is super interesting, isn't it? Like,
Trent, we have a new milestone when people are feeding us pre-vetted papers.
You gotta hire the right people. Hire the right people is the hardest
I'm
part.
Kelley important now. I got reading before I read. Never saw it.
I know.
Well, congratulations. No, that's a great
Thank
indicator of expansive growth and that you're managing that growth in a way that you need to filter. And that is a good way to, start building this in your team.
We'll start betting stuff for you guys if you want.
No, actually, you're really speaking a lot of things that are hitting true because we're going through this right now with clients and, Trent's, talking me back off of these guys because they're not here on this point and this, and then we're weighing all our other work and going, oh yeah, we're turning people away because this is such a... You
have a brand to maintain, right? You have an audience and you have to present exciting things to them. I recently launched a podcast, Crypto Token Talk. And I'm going through the same process with that where, it's typically not our clients on there, although we have had a couple of clients on there, but it's mostly like industry experts that I meet. I'm having all of these fascinating conversations when I'm going to events and things like that. And it was just a way to like aggregate all of these in one place. And I've recorded some incredible interviews. Like Tim Draper was the most recent episode. That was a good one. And Kavita Gupta from Consensus. And there's an episode with Amanda B. Johnson from Dash coming up, and Taylor Monahan from My Crypto, formerly My Ether Wallet. So I've had some amazing conversations, but it's the same thing. Like, unless you've vetted, we are now starting to be pitched like, hey, can so-and-so be on your podcast? And we have to be extremely selective. Like, I want it to be more, the goal of the podcast is for it to be a newbie friendly, like entertaining on-ramp, because there aren't that many resources where people can just go if they're first starting, and it's not a scary place for them to start, and they can listen. And so we don't go into like hashing without explaining what we're talking about, or like hard forks, or, you know what I mean? Like, and trust me, it's difficult to have conversations and not get into the weeds, but that's kind of the goal of the podcast. And so it's talking to these experts about, what they recommend for people, how people should start and things like that, rather than like, here's my ICO, buy into it. You know what I mean? It's like not about that at all. But we're starting to be on the receiving end of those pitches. And it's like, no, at this point we got to really build our content library in terms of like an educational resource for people, not, a sales pitch.
No, that's interesting because we're going through. So we're starting a branch of this podcast in Portuguese, and so
really,
our new host, she's a Brazilian economist, and she's involved in 2 ICOs, and she's been in blockchain events in Chile, Colombia, and Venezuela. That's what I really want to talk to her about. And but as we talk about it, she goes, "Hey, your show's kind of like way high up, like we're gonna have to like bring it down." I was like, well, good, because my Portuguese doesn't go high up. New tech, so but yeah, so now I'm starting to think along those lines, like, hey, we do need to start defining certain terms, for a different audience, and to, as these currencies and these systems are going to be for the people, it's bridging trust gaps in business, and the people that we feel like are going to benefit most are the people that don't have access to lawyers, banks, all these other traditional ways of doing business are going to open up, and those are the people that will benefit most after this wave of early adapters in the first world. So yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying, and I see that evolution where you got to see where you're informing and not advertising through that medium.
I love that you guys are doing that because I think that we need to get information all over the world,
outside of the Anglophone society, and that's what we're trying to demonstrate, is that we understand that this is a global movement and that we're going to start building influence in those markets and among those people.
Yeah, I met a guy, Felipe, who has a Spanish YouTube channel, Crypto Mondos or something. I can't remember. But anyway, I was, hats off, because it's like, we've got to get this information as many places as we can. And it is largely like centralized to English speaking outlets, isn't it, right now? At the moment,
yeah.
All the Telegram groups and everything, everything's in English for the most part.
So you have to have the access to English on top of your language to get access to this information.
Right.
So we have to expand it out.
And Kelley, you're in LA, so can you kind of tell us what are you seeing in Los Angeles? What is the blockchain happening there? What's going on?
So the blockchain is happening, capital H, happening here in LA. In fact, I've just noticed this, like, even definitely in the past 6 months. So I mentioned that we got in to the space in early 2016 through GEM locally. And at that time, people were like, block what, huh? Like GEM was the only one curating any sort of meetups, really. I mean, that's not entirely true, but there wasn't anything like the energy that we're seeing today. So like, for example, I mean, there's a crypto, We Are LA Tech podcast, which is a great podcast. They have a Crypto Fridays now. I mean, there's, people call it Blockchain Beach, Crypto Beach. There's, I hear about new crypto-based startups here every day almost. There's a couple weekends ago, UCLA, there's a UCLA Blockchain Labs and then a Los Angeles Blockchain Labs, which is a partnership between USC, UCLA, UC Irvine, and a bunch of other academic institutions, which is fostering like actual technological development, which is very, very cool. And, in academia. And they put on this conference, 2-day conference at UCLA that was, it was outstanding. Like it was, people from, like IBM to like NASA talking about what they're going to be using this technology for. So it was like real applications of the tech, and, the people there were like interested, and everyone's, doing really cool things. And then literally last weekend, there was another conference that was, called Blockchain Beach, put on by these guys that organize a meetup, but it was like probably a couple 100 person, big event. And there was, amazing speakers there too, like Taylor Monahan from My Crypto, right? Formerly My Ether Wallet. It's like, and they're based here. That company, My Crypto, is based here in Redondo Beach. So I feel like LA is embracing this new, set of opportunities that's sort of being presented by this new tech, because I mean, I feel like we're definitely seeing it in New York and San Francisco, but New York is more traditional finance based, and they do have some regulatory stipulations that make it a little bit difficult to start a, Bitcoin related business there at least. And then San Francisco is, definitely has great stuff happening as it relates to blockchain, but it's more of a traditional VC minded culture, right? And then LA is like this hotbed of like kind of more relaxed, like maybe libertarian minded folks who are, like living the dream. The weather is amazing. And it's just like a very open minded, like, hey, like jump in, like there's opportunities, in abundance here. Like, meet us and get on board with what we're doing versus like, clicky and like, no, like this is our club and nobody else can join. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's that sort of open-mindedness. And so I think it's those combinations of things, but I really realized over the past couple of months that like, we're so lucky to be a team of well, primarily women, but working in blockchain here in LA. And because there's like, now we have a couple of clients that are based locally. We've had clients, all over the world, and we do still have clients all over the world, but 3 or 4 of our clients now are local.
It's interesting. Cool. So your excitement, it like shows on your face. And I was thinking back as you were talking that during the California gold rush, like gold was so abundant there that they could just pull up a rock and find enough money or enough gold to set themselves up for life. And, that kind of fame people were just like writing about. And I almost feel like we're talking to somebody in that environment where you're sitting there going, blockchain, people are discovering great, unique ways of doing that. You're also sitting in the middle of a cannabis rush, which a lot of people are finding a lot of money there. And you're also in a green energy rush, where a lot of Californian companies are spearheading this boom within the global sphere of green energy. And here you are in the middle of this whirlwind of money making and co-creation. And you're also, you typified on something as well, is that an element of the blockchain is cooperation over competition. Mm-hmm. So when you meet people that are building in this environment, you're meeting people that want to cooperate. And even though I am dictated and entrenched in American ideas of, commerce, and when I hear somebody doing something similar, my immediate reaction is a competitive one. But then I even have to check myself and say, no, we have to be cooperative, and there's a way to cooperate among this. So I think one of those indicators as you look for clients and stuff might be that spirit of cooperation by this kind of hint of secrecy or, all these like proprietary things. And they're just like, oh, I don't think you understand the tech you're trying to utilize. But
everyone's willing to help each other. Really?
Yeah, right. Because we're at that, and that the characteristic of the tech is that we're going to be able to cooperate now, and we can scale cooperation by, all competing against each other.
It's not that competitive too. Like there are other, there's other great marketing and PR firms in this space as well, and we're all very friendly actually, like which is surprising to people because it's like, whoa. Really? And it's like, there's so much business to go around. Like it's not competitive. We're all just trying to maintain sort of the quality and caliber and reputation and deliver on our promises. And,
So here's the thing. So you're working as a female dominated firm. Are you all female at Melrose?
We are not. So but we are 80% women.
Okay. So, is that by design, or did it just kind of happen that way?
It's just kind of happened that way. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I saw your website and I was like, oh, this is all women. Maybe that's the thing. This is an all crypto.
No. We have a new COO. He's a guy. So African American guy though. So we have plenty of diversity. But we. I think PR and marketing in general is a very female-dominated industry. But, I hire for talent, and so, men, women, whatever. I have a lot of men that I work with at various different capacities, especially as like people who help out. So like advisors who help on like looking at the tokenomics of things, or like, token design or advisory services or investor relations. And a lot of VCs, now we have great relationships with VCs because like I mentioned, we do all of this vetting. And we're also on the front lines, which is super cool because we see projects like probably before anyone else, or just about, because people like they reach out for marketing in the early stages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a symbiotic relationship with a few, investors who like want to hear about the things that we're seeing that are exciting, and it's a total win-win-win, right? Like everybody's happy. So that's cool. But going back to, are we all women by design? No, it's just kind of happened organically like that. And we have had, I don't know, we've had a lot of success. And I mean, it has been harder to hire talent, since we shifted to like all blockchain for sure. Which is interesting because I think like people in PR and marketing don't envision themselves like, marketing like cryptocurrency startups, maybe initially in school, so it's a little bit of a tougher sell. Well, that's the thing. And people are like, well, I don't know enough. Like, and I'm like, nobody knows enough. Like, we don't know, like, you know what I mean? We're all learning literally every single day. One of the things that we do is have a team lunch once a week, although recently it's been more like twice a week, because we've had some special guests come in, which has been really fun. But we have a team lunch where we like pick a topic in the industry, like, it could be like an evergreen topic, like, tokenomics and like how to structure your token, or it could be a more timely topic. Like our most recent discussion was about, like this dilemma as it relates to the Parity wallet funds being frozen, and, what should the Ethereum community do? Should there be a hard fork? Should there, like, how do we resolve this issue, and how do we resolve issues moving forward? So that was one of our topics. But like, you learn, and like I hire, if people are willing to like, if people have like all the qualities we're looking for in terms of like taking initiative and taking ownership over things and having drive, and then they're willing to learn, then like that's all that they really need. And then the first thing that we do when we get new people in the door, including interns, is send them $100 of either Bitcoin or Ethereum of their choosing, and that gets them instantly vested. It's like all of a sudden you want to learn because they're like, what is this thing that keeps going up and down?
So you studied public relations in school, right? You went to USC for that. Where'd you learn your leadership skills? Like where's that training come from? Or are you just making stuff? Because you're doing some really brilliant in things as a pioneer that are educating the people closest to you, which is making you progress further. Like, do you have was it a mentor?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I have a lot of mentors that I pull inspiration from. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks about this, because at this point, my job really is more so than like promoting these companies. It's really like managing, right? Once you get to a certain amount of people, I think we have about 14 total. And so once it gets to that level, like you're really like managing all of these moving parts. So
what's your age demographic too? Your employees are probably in their 20s, right? And
for the most part, yeah. I'm 30, so I'm pretty young. I started the company, I was 24, which is like kind of crazy to me thinking now.
Going back and going, like
that sounds pretty young. Yeah,
that's great.
But they range in age from about, the youngest is I think about 24 or 25 to about, I don't know how old our oldest is, 38.
Okay. Our youngest is 24 and I'm 41. So
okay.
I'm the grandpa, in the whole scenario.
As it relates to, like, I always knew that I wanted to be in business. Like, I actually started out at USC as a business major, and then found myself in like calculus and economics classes, and was like, where's the door? I'm out. And so I switched majors to sociology and PR, like combined. So anyway. And then
I hear what you're saying, because you're using, people see PR and I guess they can just blanket over it, but they don't understand how much PR influences their lives, and how much this comes from kind of neuroscience and the understanding of the brain and human behavior. And, I worked with the neuroscientist for over the course of years, and she used to point out companies that use that she didn't know they had neuroscientists on their staff, but they're just like, their marketing is coming from understanding of human behavior. And so you're obviously demonstrating that because you're incentivizing the people around you to learn and support what you're doing. I think that's a brilliant thing, to give them cryptocurrency to make sure they're in there so they can talk the talk. Right. I won't ask you to put a percentile on where you judge yourself on crypto and blockchain, but you're probably in the high 90s yourself. And you're probably watching clients that you're like, man, I know more about this than the people that are actually doing it, you know? So
I don't know. I mean, I learn something new every day. Like, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
But honestly, that's the difficult part we're seeing too. And Trent deals with this, and he's doing it with like language barriers, just like you're doing with international like markets, where you're translating really complex coding into kind of something somebody can understand. Yeah. And that's a true talent, and it's something we're struggling with. So that's maybe why we're hyper focusing on.
But I think that I've failed a lot too. Like, I'm willing to fail. We've made some mistakes.
Can you tell us one?
Mistakes. Well, like, I don't know. I don't want to, like, like, for example, we hired someone recently that we, thought it was going to work. We kept trying to make it work. She was based remotely in DC, but wanted to move here. Like, our core team, our main office is here in LA, and we really there's something about being in the building, and like being part of the core team. Like, we definitely are a remote company. Like, we're on Slack, and like, we do have contractors, but the core team is here really. And, so anyway, we kind of chalked things up to like, oh, maybe they aren't working because she's remote or whatever. Well, she moved here, and it became very clear that like it just wasn't a fit. And so then you're like, oh my gosh, what have we just done? Like, I mean, that's an expensive mistake to make, right? We paid for someone to move, like have to part ways, severance, whatever. Like, it was just kind of sad. Like, why? I mean, ultimately, I think this person was very happy that she got moved to California. So like it wasn't that bad, but you don't want to make hiring mistakes. Like, the culture is really important to protect, right? Like, you get one person who doesn't jive with your culture, it throws everybody and everything off instantly, right? Like, people don't realize that, especially like, I don't know if you saw our office, the way it's set up, the main room is like basically one giant, it's like a set of desks, like all stacked together, like a giant conference room table. So, and then we have multiple like side rooms, one of which I'm in right now. But like, we're all like sitting there talking to each other, like it can be a distracting environment, but like everyone has to jive is my point. We're in close proximity to each other. And so when it hums. When it's off, you can really feel it. And I guess what I've learned is to make those mistakes faster, right? Because this was a discussion that like I was having with this person's manager, because I supported what she wanted. And ultimately I had to push her in the direction of like, I think we need to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, this isn't working. It's going to be hard today. It's going to be hard tomorrow. It's going to be hard next week. And it's going to be hard in 3 months. But we need to make this decision because we don't have time to waste here. We need to find the right person for this position, right? So those are tough. Like, that's tough. That's a really difficult part of running a business. And those are mistakes that we've made, but.
And it's good for the people around you to see,
yeah.
Boss lady won't, not in a punitive way, but the mission is so important. She's going to make sure we get to that spot.
Yeah. And I want to protect them too,
Yeah. Your team's ability to see you facilitating the mission is a really important job. So I run a company in Africa, and I had that kind of problem. I recounted this story where the first time I didn't pay a bribe to a government official, and I almost lost my whole team. Because I thought, I was like, hey, we're not here to pay bribes. And they were like, well, you're never going to get a job.
You're like, what?
Yeah. And they're like, I can't put my kids' school fees and the food in my stomach to somebody's principal. Like, I ain't paying. And I was like, oh, like I almost had a mutiny because I didn't pay this bribe. And so like, not to mention the guy who set me up with the meeting, I'm sure he probably said, hey, I'm bringing you, an American, and, times are good. So, that point, actually ended up saying, hey, we're just going after international dollars, not working for the local government, because that's really murky. But but yeah, showing the team that you can get things done. I think that motion is saying, hey, I can make tough decisions. You know, I'm not going to let us drown because I can't make a decision like that. That is a huge
fast nose, right? Fast nose. We get hit up by a lot of other service providers too, like, hey, can we do like advertising for your clients, or can we do like whatever, like videos, you know? And at this point, it's like we just kind of have to turn down all of those requests because it's noise. It's distracting us from what we're good at. Like we spend more time like trying to negotiate those like small deals, and that doesn't really make sense for us. It's like, let's just focus on what we're good at and move forward. And that's one of the things that like PJ, our COO, has been really good about, like just laser focusing our direction. Like, I'm one of these leaders that likes to bounce ideas off of people. One of the things that Taylor from My Crypto, you guys should totally interview if you get the chance. She had this similar experience, but she said that she asks her team, like, what benefits do you care about in terms of like, what things matter to you? Flexible time off, like work from home days, like what things matter? And that's exactly how I lead as well. It's like, let's make this a combined effort, which maybe isn't the best way to do things, but maybe it is. Like, maybe it's a new way of doing things. But hearing that she leads like that as well was kind of like reassuring to me. And then I also really like to bounce things off of people. Like, I like to have people to bounce things off of. I don't like to make decisions just based on my own. I have a lot going on in every given day, so I want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions and things. So sometimes my brain is mush.
And what does your normal day look like?
A lot of phone calls. Recently it's been a lot of phone calls. So it'll be like calls with potential new pieces of new business. I basically handle sort of the front end pipeline. So, and because the contracts are shorter, we do have to be having those conversations often, because like the contracts are like 4 months. And so then we have new people. Conversations with various different team members about various different things that are going on. So like usually in between those calls, I'm like, hey, Kelley, can I run something by you? Or hey, like I kind of get pulled in those directions. And then I'll, I don't do this every day, but a few times a week I record podcast interviews. And just meeting with people, talking to really interesting people. There's, meeting with reporters sometimes. So, and then strategy. So we'll like carve out time to help from a high level on strategic things. But basically we have teams within our team that manage the clients. So the team lead will come to me with like a high level problem, or like something that they're looking to market, and we'll talk through sort of the strategy, and then they go and implement it. But they're the ones that are, for the most part, talking to the clients. And then sometimes I do talk to the clients for various different things too. And then email is like an end of the day thing. So I've started like blocking time at the beginning of the day, because I need like an hour just to get through stuff, because the problem is like I'm buried by the end of the day. And we also use Slack, which is awesome. It's like a blessing and a curse, right? Because I check Slack before I check email. So sometimes emails, like they do get buried, because I want to make sure that I've seen everything on Slack first. So
I just had this conversation.
Yeah, I'm working on time management.
I'm like, Trent, people aren't responding to my requests, and da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, what requests, man? And I'm like, I have got 10 days of emails. And he looks back and he goes, holy crap, man. Like, yeah, you're right. He goes, no, that's a black hole. Just throw it in the Slack channel.
Yeah. Well, it is a black hole. And like, I'll get back to people 4 or 5 days later, which is embarrassing, but I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to come up with better systems for how to manage my time as it relates to that, for sure. But adding the podcast has been like very rewarding, but like it was like adding another job. It's like, because I didn't have enough going on already, I should just like add a whole nother thing.
And has it created more like leads or relationships? And
I think so. Yes, I mean, I think so. Yeah. It also is just like incredibly rewarding from just talking to people who are doing really interesting stuff. Because I will say, like, for example, I ran interviews all day at the UCLA Cyber Days event that I mentioned. And my team was like, this is an example of where my team does all the work, because I was literally just sitting in a room and I did a batch interviews. At the end of the day, I counted and I had done 11 interviews. So like literally back to back to back, like I barely got up to go to the bathroom between them. And and they were doing all of the legwork. And going into that day, I was exhausted because I'd just been in Dallas the night before I got back in from the Bitcoin Super Conference. I had done a couple of interviews there, and I hadn't really pre-vetted the people that I was talking to. So I was nervous that I was talking to people who were going to like want to promote their ICO, for example. But I trusted the organizers of the conference. We had been working with them, and I knew that it wasn't pay to play and it was all curated. So, but I was thinking, basically, because I talked to a lot of, this isn't going to sound good, but bear with me. Because I talked to a lot of like potential new business all the time who are like pitching their token idea to me, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, why do you need a token? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm jaded. And my eyes glaze over about like, cause I'm like, I know why you want to do this. You want to raise tons of money because you think it's easy. And, you know, and so I had this experience where halfway through the day at UCLA Cyber Days, I realized I had gone into it expecting that experience. And these people were doing incredible things with blockchain and real applications, like really working on things. And it was an eye-opener. It was like, wow, I need to be having more of these types of conversations because this is where I'm getting my inspiration. Like, I was fired up. I loved it. Like, I couldn't wait for the next one because I couldn't wait to see what these other people were doing. And I was meeting these incredible, fascinating people. So it's been so rewarding from that standpoint, you know, and it gets me like my marketing cap off and just talking to people and finding out what they're doing. It's cool.
You know what I think you're recognizing is that I think a lot of people are recreating the old system in a digital way on the blockchain.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's kind of like an obvious thing. And then, you know, and I've kind of saved my sanity by going, you know what, this is the fastest growing vehicle for our financial vehicle. It makes sense. You'd be stupid not to explore the idea of using it, try it, fail, you know, go through it and see if it helps your business or not. But what we're also noticing is that you're starting to see people that are applying concepts, and these concepts are game changing, and it's quick to organize and quick to say, oh, yeah, I can see where you took an oblique and you're going to change the world or that industry with this new kind of thing, not just recreate it in a new way. And you know, and then there is that kind of like other element of greed toward it, but we're a capitalist society. So like you can kind of expect that it is. When we were talking to the holochain guys, I said something about, you know, the finance guys hijacking blockchain, and he goes, no, man, they were baked right into it. This was created as a financial tool. Don't forget about it. You know, now some of the new guys are coming out and it's about organizing humans and incentivizing human behavior and outcomes. And that's what I think you're seeing the difference is some people are using it to create real change. And so, yeah, it's interesting. You're at that node where you are at that crossroads where you're seeing all those different advances.
And we're benefiting financially from this. Like and, you know, we're capitalists as well, for sure. You know what I mean? It is a gold rush. We are in the center. We are in a very fortunate position to be able to pick and choose our clients selectively. And, you know, so for me to be like fussy about that and, you know, jaded is like a little bit,
well, you know what's going to be
hypocritical? I don't know.
Well, you're going to make a lot of money off of a coin, almost like an artist says, I didn't realize that song was going to be the hit. So you're probably collecting coins too as you're going along, and then
not as much as you would think. We have to be really careful about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from a legal perspective too.
Conflict of interest, yeah.
Yeah, like we have to be careful how we structure things. Like we definitely initially were more keen to do that, and now I don't know. It depends. Like sometimes there's bound. You know what I mean? Like it depends. But we get paid generally speaking in USD, like fiat or Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay, so you keep the biggins. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've been we got some coins from one of our friends, and we're just like, hey, I wonder if this right there, just, you know, if they make it big, you know, and that's how
like, have we? Yeah. Yes, we have. You know, but like they've stayed in those coins. Like I haven't touched them because here's the thing. Like I don't have time to be like a trader too. You know what I mean? It's distracting.
But that's my point, is one day you're going to wake up and you're going to go, what?
I mean,
that thing blew up. I forgot I even got those. You know?
I know. Like, I should probably hire someone to help me with that, honestly. But it's like, who do you trust? You know, like, I don't know. Like, it's tricky, you know, especially with tokens. That's the challenging part of accepting and paying in crypto at the moment is, you know, like we use hardware wallets for everything.
Mm-hmm.
but basically it's just me who makes those payments, right? Because I don't want to like give a hardware wallet with, you know, an amount of Bitcoin or Ether to like my CPA or whatever. Like that, you know, that could have $5,000 on it today and 50 on it tomorrow, or zero. You know what I mean? Or what? It's just, you know, what if they just walked away with it?
That's actually an interesting point. The idea that there needs to be corporate process and procedure around the cryptocurrency. You know,
Yeah,
whether it's like where, you know, who holds the corporate wallet, who has rights to it, how is money moved from it, how do they physically secure it, you know, if companies are getting paid and working in these systems, who has the right to invest that money while it's just sitting there, you know, that.
Well,
Like,
it's so accident prone, right? Like if you send it to one digit wrong, like you send it to the wrong place. So you also need to be extremely careful. So it's like, what, you know, if you're hiring someone to do that, like, are they responsible if they make a mistake for that financial, you know what I mean? Like,
or a check and balance system where two people have to, like, you know, it's like launching codes. You know?
And there are systems like that. There are like, you know, BitPay has multi-sig wallets and things like that that you can use. But I like to store everything offline personally because I'm paranoid. Like I think I have a healthy dose of paranoia. Like we're a target, you know?
Yeah.
So like, come get us because we're ready. I'm just kidding.
And that's the conversation, you know, and that's what all companies.
Yeah, we've gone to great lengths to have to button up our security. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, you know, my crypto wallet's my backpack. Well,
Hopefully
everybody sees this, but yeah. Like, and then you just sit there and you're just like, man, what do you do? You know, and as this grows, you know, where do you start putting that stuff? I've never, you know, banks work kind of, they offered some security for that, right? They had all the security.
Yeah, my bookkeeper was like, so where do you keep this? And I was like, I'm not telling you.
No, it's good. That's good. No, well, so how can people find you?
So I am on Twitter, Crypto Kelley. That's probably the best way to reach me, or LinkedIn, Kelley Weaver. I think I'm Crypto Kelley is my URL for LinkedIn as well. So, and the links are all there. Our website for the PR company is melrosepr.com. And the website for the podcast is cryptotokentalk.io.
All right. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time and your insights into the industry. And I don't know, I have a superpower to see in the future. And it's like, man, this is a powerful woman and is going to be extremely powerful in the future. So we appreciate your insights and your learning and what you're doing for the industry.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm excited to follow your guys' journey as well. So thank you for having me on here.
Great. Thanks
for coming on the show.